Leave your leaves. There are so many reasons why you should keep your leaves at home. Leaves are a gift to the gardener, so you should put this valuable resource to use in your own landscape. Why? Well, 11 to 18% of what goes into the landfill is organic matter. That's leaves and grass and scrap lumber, food waste. Leaves make up the greatest volume, while grass makes up the most weight. This is a waste of landfill space, and it also removes nutrients from the environment. Repurposing this material could reduce landfill by up to 10%. People used to burn their leaves, and some still do. Often the smoke causes allergy problems, and it causes pollution, and burning your leaves is a waste of a valuable resource. So what should you do with them? Well, the bulky leaves will make a matted mess on your lawn if you just leave them there whole. So before it rains, or when you can get a dry spell after they have fallen, mow over your lawn with a lawnmower. And I hope by now you've invested in a mulching mower. But if you haven't, from what I understand, you can change out the blade on a regular mower to a mulching mower. It just has the output in the wrong place, but it will work. It will cut out the leaves. And you need to do this. Don't wait till they all fall. You need to do this about once a week or more often if you have a lot of wind and they're falling pretty quickly, because they're easier to cut if there's only a small layer there. It usually takes my husband and me about 4 times to work on our property and get all the leaves up and make it really neat looking. And what he does is go out with the mulching mower and mow the lawn while I take the rake or the blower and blow more leaves out of the flower beds. And we also take the ones from the flower beds that we don't want cut up on the lawn and put them on the driveway and cut them up. So it's easy to cut on the driveway, and if you can get a large pile of leaves out there, and if you go over with that mulching mower, it reduces them down to from about 25 to 1. So you may start with a huge pile, but then you end up with something that's a lot smaller. But when you cut them up on your lawn, the small pieces will filter down and they will fill in around the grass and hold the moisture in, and your grass will get healthier and thicker. And also, they will help shade the weed seeds that blow in so that they can't germinate. I know a lot of people hire somebody else to cut their grass. So if you're one of these people, just try to work with your grass cutter and have it done your way, or at least a good portion of it done your way. You want to shred the leaves as small as you can. Shredding causes them to decompose faster. When you put the leaf mulch on your soil, it holds the water, it prevents erosion, and it moderates the soil temperature. In my yard, I have about 80% perennial beds and 20% lawn. And it may not even be 20% lawn. And there are going to be areas where it's not feasible to get a lawnmower in there. Like I live on top of a hill and it's solid rock. So I have big boulders sticking out of the ground everywhere. Plus the fact that when they put the irrigation system in, they couldn't do underground irrigation system, so I have little emitters sticking up everywhere. So it's really hard to cut something like that with a lawnmower. So there's other ways that you can handle those. I have a leaf mower, it's an electric one, a leaf mower vac, and basically it's a blower that you reverse the input and the output, and then it vacuums up the leaves. And they mostly come with a bagger, but I don't use the bagger. I put on my goggles and eye protection and your mask and get out there. It's a dirty job, but when you don't have the bagger on there. But suck the leaves up in that and aim them out in front of you. And the reason you want to aim them out in front of you is so that if it does pick up an acorn, it doesn't hit somebody you don't want. And I personally have never had a hickory nut go through my But you do have to turn it off periodically and let them fall, otherwise they're just rattling in there. But if you did have a hickory nut that went through, you don't want to break a window or dent a neighbor's car or something like that. So try to be conscious to have it out in front of you, and that way you can aim the chewed up leaves where you want them. Now these will only reduce the bulk from about 10 to 1, but I just go over mine multiple times. And it might be easier if you have a lot of spent perennials, if you weed eated those first, and then your vacuum could pick those pieces up and mulch those too. So the least desirable way to do your mulching is, or to me anyway, is what some people do is put their leaves in a trash can and then put a string trimmer down in there and cut them up with a string trimmer. But you know, if you're standing over that thing and all that's blowing up in your face, that's not a pleasant thing. So I have tried it and I've decided not to do it that way, but you might try it. There's at least 4 options that you can do to get rid of your leaves and with keeping them on your property. Mulching, we just talked about. And you can take this mulch that you did not leave on your lawn and shovel it up, or you can use the bagger the last time you go over the driveway or whatever and bag it up. And you can put a 3 to 6 inch layer around trees, just don't put it up against the trunk of the trees or any other woody plants. Because that harbors insects and disease and things like that if you put it right up against the plant. In perennial beds, you can put your cut up mulch about 2 to 3 inches thick. And it does look uniform, it looks pretty. If you want a more uniform look, you can put a thin layer of pine straw or bark on your mulch. But I personally, during the winter, the mulch looks fine to me, and I just wait to put my pine straw out. Late winter, early spring, before the perennials start coming back up again. Leaves serve as a weed suppressor and an insulator, which we talked about, and they keep the soil warm as the winter comes on, so that they protect your plants longer that way. And then in the heat of the summer, they keep the soil cool and moist. Trees are an effective mineral extractor, putting down the intricate root systems, and then they pull these minerals from the soil: potassium, magnesium, calcium, and phosphorus, and into their trunks and out into the leaves. 50 to 80% of the nutrients that trees have extracted are in their leaves, so that when you put these back on the soil, those nutrients go back into the soil. And almost any leaf can be used for mulch, with the exception of black walnut or eucalyptus. They contain a natural herbicide that would keep plants from germinating or coming up. You've probably heard people talk about they can't grow anything under a black walnut tree. So you should use those leaves where you just want a ground cover, where you're not going to try to grow anything. And most leaves are slightly acidic, and oak and maple are highly acidic, from what I understand. But when they break down, they really don't change the pH of the soil. And science, people used to say that they would, if you used oak leaves, it would make your soil acidic. The science, from what I understand, does not back that theory. They said when they break down, they just do not change it. So leaves are an excellent free carbon-rich amendment, and they contain trace elements that plants need. Any soil can be improved with organic matter, such as leaf mulch. Not overnight, maybe, but over a period of years, your soil will turn into, even clay would turn into a rich, loamy soil. Sandy soil would hold more water and nutrients. When I first moved where I live now, you couldn't plant anything. It was solid rock. And I had multiple truckloads of soil brought in, dirt, really, just dirt, and most of it was clay, and put on top of the rock so I could plant. And then at one time, the city used to pile up all their leaves and trash in an area where you could go and get it after it started the decomposition process. So for years, I got truckloads of that and put on top of my soil. So when anybody came into my yard and I was digging up a plant for them, they said, "Oh, you've got such good soil." You know, it doesn't happen overnight. You have to put the ingredients back on it. So save your leaves and use them for that. Earthworms and beneficial fungi will come up, and the soil food web love to feast on leaf mulch. These organisms come to the surface, they devour the mulch, and then they burrow back down into the soil, and they poop, and they decompose themselves. And this is the recycling process. This enriches your soil much better than any synthetic fertilizer could do. In case you're wondering about the difference between mulch, mold, and compost, mulch is step one, and we have been talking about that. Leaf mulch breaks down into leaf mold. Mold is, a step further. It's decayed mulch. And with a few ingredients added, like nitrogen, it becomes compost. Let's talk about leaf mold. Because if you have a lot of leaves left over that you're not using right now, if you pile them up somewhere, they're gonna become leaf mold as they start decaying. It's an excellent soil conditioner. I use it in my potted plants. I have a lot of hostas and pots, and I just get my leaf mold and put on top of the pots every year, and don't use any fertilizer, just the natural ingredients. And if you use it, you don't have to buy a soil amendment. You're saving yourself money. So it serves the same purpose as mulch, but it's more readily available to the plants and the soil microbes. Compost is the finished product. It's dark, crumbly, and earth-smelling. It's gone through the natural decomposition process, but it's mostly carbon. The leaves are mostly carbon, and you need to mix a nitrogen source in there to get compost. So next spring, if you still have a big pile of leaves, start mixing your grass clippings in with it, and you will end up with compost. So use all your leaves and go and get all your neighbors' leaves, and you'll have much better soil.